Next up is my colleagues from the Diverse Values Project, who are going to do something slightly different in the spirit of that project, I think. So Steve, if you'd like to come up.
Okay, myself and Saida will be your host, and my colleague Tim. Oh, Eric, feeling slightly panicky for a moment there. Thanks. Okay, so a recurring challenge in all areas of marine management is how to accurately capture the diverse range of values a community holds towards marine resources. That's come up in multiple presentations in this session and earlier on as well. A particular challenge is how we make sure that lesser heard voices and voices from vulnerable groups and their values are incorporated into marine management decisions, valuation studies and consultation processes as well, because they are often absent. And there's a whole other conversation about why that is. One of the things we're trying to do in this project is test out other methods of getting access to those groups and either co-creating or exposing the values they hold, largely through arts-based research methods. So what we're going to do in this short presentation is give you a super quick overview of some arts-based methods that we've been using, and then hold a structured conversation where we explore some early reflections of how useful those arts-based approaches are. Right, so Tim, you're up first. Can you talk about photo essays?
Thank you. Yes, so we're using photography and narratives to explore coastscapes across our 3 case study areas. The focus is on photography to draw attention to special qualities in the landscape and to write a narrative challenging and exploring ideas of land and sea. Images and text will be displayed in real and virtual exhibitions, and which will be the point of public engagement and conversations. We're interested in creating values as well as eliciting values.
Thank you, Tim. Victoria, can you explain the community voice method, please?
Yep. The community voice method is a well-established interviewer-led approach to engage with diverse voices. And essentially involves interviewing participants and then using those transcripts, analysing them using a framework that's developed by our colleagues at Marine Conservation Society, Sue Ranger and her team. And then from that transcript analysis, selecting the clips have then become part of a documentary film. And you may have seen the film that was on at the break, but it's going to be on at lunchtime as well from our Shetland site. But importantly, the documentary film is the springboard for a conversation. It's then screened in a deliberative kind of workshopping space to further talk about some of the points that were raised in the film.
Thank you, Victoria. Chris, please, can you talk about digital storytelling?
Hi, thanks, Steve. Yeah, digital storytelling is another relatively well-recognised arts-based research method, whereby individuals and communities are given a voice utilising readily accessible and available technologies, namely mobile phone and free apps for video editing. A narrative is developed during workshop sessions, often in response to a prompt or a topic or theme. And the participants are then supported to transform their narratives into an audio-visual digital story, usually around 2 to 5 minutes long. And they utilise photos, short film clips, voiceovers, and sometimes other audio methods such as music and soundscapes. And then these finished digital stories, they relay, community stories and lived experience. Do I need to stop?
Yes. I'm sending stop vibes, but yeah, we're obviously supportive in a keeping to time way. Right, Erica, please, can you explain the forum? Oh, the theatre.
Yes, so we're using a couple of different kinds of what's called applied theatre, and applied theatre is inherently embedded in a community, and so it's really all about co-creation with a community. So instead of a kind of a traditional show that you might go and see, this is about making and using theater as a kind of a maker space. And what this does is it can really destabilize the kind of power hierarchy between researcher and subject, because then with the co-production that's happening, everyone is kind of understood to be an expert in their own way. And so we've used so far two different kinds of theater: documentary theater, which uses transcripts, oral histories. In this case, we've actually used the transcripts that my colleague Victoria created out of the interviews for the community voice method film. And then the other one was forum theater. And so my colleague Jonathan Potts at University of Portsmouth and I created a scenario that we've used then to explore consultation processes through theater.
Wonderful, thank you very much. So are all arts-based methods the same?
No.
All right, so let me ask the next question to Erica. How could we characterize arts-based research methods?
Yeah, so the way that we've really tried to think about it on this project is a continuum of co-creation. So all art is participatory, right? So, you know, for example, in the photo essay, you as the audience are participating in viewing, in the criticism, and in the experiencing of it. But on our continuum, we have, so from the kind of least to the most in terms of co-creation. So I would say kind of photography is probably, that's really in the hand of the photographer, of the artist. So there's kind of one voice there. And then second would be probably community voice method, which certainly the interviewees are creating insofar as they're answering the questions, but these are questions that are created by the researcher, and then the film is made by professionals. Even though it's sort of coded, it's still professionally edited. And then the next would be digital storytelling. Again, so the participant is creating a kind of a storyboard, giving photographs, creating a voiceover, but the editing is still done by the researcher. And then the most participatory is the theater work, because quite literally the bodies of the participants are physically on stage. And so they can do kind of whatever they want. You know, they have the most power in that moment when they're there and present. So that's the continuum on which we're working.
Wonderful, thank you very much. Can I ask you to give your answers super concisely from now on, please? Tim, how do you think arts-based evidence can be used in marine management?
I mean, I think this is the $1,000,000 question, I think, and I feel like I've picked the difficult one. But I think we're absolutely at a cliff edge at the moment in terms of trying to understand arts and humanities in marine management. We heard from Ed this morning that social sciences are being increasingly incorporated into decision making, but really when it comes to art-based approaches, then we are really still quite a long way from it becoming kind of mainstream, although there are some very interesting approaches. I would say that the secret to getting this embedded in organizations is to understand what values those organizations are already in those organizations that guide their work. And to say that this type of transdisciplinary work actually requires some quite deep epistemological and ontological assumptions. So we do need to get into debates about philosophy and how we incorporate different types of evidence. But just finally, some forms of art-based research are more like qualitative social science research methods, and therefore that might be an easy route in the first instance to addressing some of that.
Thank you, Tim. Next question for Cressida. What additionality can arts-based methods provide over and above the evidence itself?
30 seconds.
Yes, please.
Okay, quickly. Okay,
25 now.
So we've already talked about, you know, how arts-based methods can flatten hierarchies and disrupt constructs around expertise and power and knowledge. They're especially relevant if you're researching things like social and cultural values. Arts-based methods can open up wider expressive possibilities and allow a more expansive viewpoint and integrate a huge wealth of local knowledge and social capital. Participants can articulate deeper thoughts, and unexpected and unanticipated findings are often revealed. And the methods are quite reflexive and responsive. Sorry, I'm not going to stop because I've got something I need to say.
Okay.
So,
It's the
outputs, there's a sense of ownership and buy-in from the participants, which if you're then going to go on and co-design interventions can be really critical, you know, as to the success of those interventions. Trusted voices, if you're working with local, you know, trusted voices within the community, then the messages can be more likely to be well accepted and you know, have more authenticity in those settings. And finally, we need to recognise the value of arts-based method evidence as it stands without feeling the need to distill it into percentages or numbers or quantitative research findings.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Chris. Victoria, we don't have enough time for your question, I'm afraid. But if anybody would like to know the answer to the question, how can arts-based research methods complement other methods, then Victoria is your person to speak to.
Can I just say one thing though, very quickly? I was just to say a nod to the beach hut at the back of a room, which encapsulates our transdisciplinary journey so far, but also has a flavour of all of our arts-based methods in it. It has the quotes from a CVM, it has the theatre script, it's got the photography, and it has 2 digital films that you can view inside the beach hut as well. So
thank you. That is the end. Thank you.